Hi, good morning. I'm Ozzy Jurok. I'm the host of OzBuzz, where we interview eclectic and interesting and successful people in and around the real estate world. And today we are very, very pleased to have with us Rob Sutherland, who has created a new, unique niche for himself in a very difficult and tricky business, the real estate brokerage business. So welcome, Rob.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Ozzy.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. Now you've been always on the forefront of artificial intelligence and virtual reality and all that stuff. Do you think that AI changes the way real estate is being sold and bought as well?
I think there's nobody who's going to replace a realtor anytime soon. I think that's one of the things when we look at robots replacing jobs and things like that. I think that they're not going to be knocking on doors anytime soon. They're not going to be putting together a client list. That's just my opinion.
Oh, well, I would agree with that because there's also lots of things a local realtor will know. Half of Kelowna is built on clay. Would you want to have your house there? Or, there's a lot of local influences that a realtor can do. But AI is making changes, creating lists, creating contacts, and so on.
Absolutely. And removing some administrative tasks that perhaps some of the realtors or brokerages don't need to do. Maybe that's something they can use ChatGPT for.
Yeah, well, ChatGPT everybody talks about, but I use for videos, I use a program called Pictory.ai, and Pictory actually lets me put my talk in the machine, translates it, and then puts pictures to each heading. So if I said the inflation rate in Germany and France happens to be like in the USA, it shows me pictures of Germany, France, and USA, and as I speak, I go click, click, click. And in 20 minutes, I did one the other day for the Real Estate Action Group, and in 20 minutes, I put together this 7 or 8 minute video, and anybody could do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So it does change.
It's true. It's true.
Does it help the real estate industry overall, you think?
I think technology as a whole does help the real estate industry. I think one of the things, I think we both saw years and years ago was listings were all published in a book, and you had to see a realtor to get that book of listings and then shop for your properties that way. And you're never going to know what's new to the market because it takes a month to get those books and things like that, right? So obviously having properties listed online and being able to shop is a great thing, and I think there are certain things that do benefit the real estate when it comes to technology, obviously phones and computers and things like that, but nothing's going to replace that human touch. That's one of the things as a call center, people are tired of robo-dialers. People are tired of fraud calls coming through with not real people on the other end of the phone. They want to talk to a human. They want to talk to somebody that probably speaks English as a first language, and it's not going to be a robot. So there are things that won't be replaced by technology, I'm sure of it.
Well, particularly since you're not just an average call center, you're very industry focused. So your people know what they're talking about when they talk to either a client or an agent or a buyer. The other day, I got a video sent to me where a robot is actually getting a client to come to the office. And so it's a voice and you think it's a human being. Well, that's almost too much, it's a little scary. But everything has changed in the brokerage, even without AI. We have now brokerages that are operating only agents from home. And so what do you think in the last 4 years have been the big changes?
I think there's been some companies that got very lucky at the start of COVID because everything went remote for a while there. One that was primed was EXP, and EXP had a huge influx of agents come there because they were set up for it. They got lucky. But one of the things we've seen is, sure, some brokerages have converted to EXP, but then you've got these other brokerages that are trying to be virtual. And the one thing that's kind of the common denominator that people complain about that I hear coast to coast, United States and Canada, is the lack of support. Yes, sure, you can cut me on my fees and this is less expensive and I never go to the office anyway, so I'm not paying your overhead, but there's nobody there to answer my call at 10 o'clock at night when I'm trying to put a deal together. And that's one of the things that I think will not go away. And a robot can answer those questions. Maybe someday there'll be something like that. But there's so many different intrinsic things to putting deals together, whether that's for real estate or for mortgage or for finance, that you can't just sit there and go, okay, we can't have any support. We're going to cut all that and that'll be how we save money. It's just not going to work.
Well, I used to run a large real estate brokerage and we had a commission split, right? And then what I call the desk renters, the 100%ers came along and they tried to cream me. And I said, well, 100% or nothing is still nothing, If you have a deal and it's 11 o'clock at night, our managers are not competition with you. They go with you and close that deal that night. Today, everybody sends out 100 emails and hopes that money sort of will flow in. So the new realtor, what is he looking or she looking for in a real estate office?
One of the things we've seen that's transformed as our business in the last 5-10 years is more independent offices coming along. You've got this guy, he's a producer, he's done 1 million deals where he's grown up and everybody knows him. And he said, you know what, I don't need a Remax. I don't need a Coldwell Banker brand. I'm going to be Bob Smith Realty. Everybody knows me, and they build a team strategically that way. And then they actually help the realtors develop leads off of their good reputation and things like that. And it's a lot less anonymous. And I think the big brands have definitely felt that. We've seen company after company come to us and say, hey, can you call all these brokerages that are independent and try and sell them on our franchise? And every time we try and do a campaign like that, we see how dedicated people are to Bob Smith Realty. They're like, I love this guy. We shouldn't change that. And so that's one of the things, again, I think has been transforming a bit in the industry is the need for a big brand isn't so important, because at the end of the day, the realtor is the one bringing the deals in anyways, right? It's an entrepreneurial.
The realtor has, his clients, and if it's true and we move every 3 or 4 years, well, if you've been in a business for a while, you have people that know you, then they'll call you or you call them and you get referrals, and that is the locality of the real estate business, no question itself. So it's not just competing on price and how much commission I get, but what a broker owner should be looking for in order to hire salespeople.
Yeah, I think that circling the drain on price is a bad idea for anything. I mean, you've got people with Amazon stores trying to compete on people for a few cents here and there and doing Shopify websites and things like that. We're just competing on price. That is going away in the real estate industry as we're getting down to the nitty gritty of people who are, like we were talking about before the call, who are making it through right now, who are still doing deals. Those people are super valuable, right? And they don't care here or there if it's a split of this or whatever, if they're paying $1,000 a month or whatever it is, as long as they're getting something they want from their broker or that they like their broker, they're going to stay there. And that's another thing. They need to be treated more like entrepreneurs. They're like a small business. It's like if you're a realtor trying to, get started in the business and there's an older guy in the office with a book of business, you should look at that like an M&A. It's a merger and acquisition, right? like absolutely.
Yeah, there's no question that the best trainers probably are right sitting beside you in the office. And that is the question. Should you be working from home or should you be working in the office? I mean, is the brick and mortar finished? And I know when I was president of Royal LePage, and we had 320 offices and they were all company owned, so we could determine whether they should be in a shopping center or on a main street, or should they be new or old. And actually what we found was none of that really mattered. What mattered was who was the guy or the gal in charge of the office. I thought that was the biggest surprise to me. Here we had money to spend. We had $560 million gross income. We're talking about a long time ago. It was real money. So we could have built all new offices, but that wasn't the key. Was that we hired the right kind of a manager who created the right kind of environment. And you know what? There could be the lover kind of manager who attracted lover kind of salespeople, right? They'd all go to lunch together and they all, have parties, or the mean-spirited manager. It didn't matter because he whipped them, it said, you go out there with your phone call, here's your list, did you do that? Some people attracted to that, and it was funny, we'd sometimes change a manager and the really successful office wasn't successful anymore. And we thought it was something to do with the office. No, it was with the person. And so, brick and mortar, yes or no?
I like the brick and mortar model. Most of our clients have got an office across the Canada and across the United States markets. I think we've done well with some people who are remote, but again, it's like you're meeting in coffee shops, you're meeting it on Zoom and things like that. And I think right now, so many people are kind of starved for attention and social interaction, especially people who are in residential real estate. They want to come and meet in an office and meet with people and stuff like that. And that whole thing about having a non-competing manager and broker, I think that's up for question right now, because a lot of the time our worst clients, are people who have never done a deal before in their life. They're a manager who just sits there and they check deals and it's an admin task. They're not producing. Our best clients are people who still do deals. I think people right now are attracted to people who are doing business. And that especially in the real estate industry is extremely important because then it's inspiring, right? Oh, that deal didn't come through. Oh, well, Bruce still did 2 deals this week. Man, how can I get in with him and learn more about that rather than talking to some guy who's never put a deal together? That to me is more important than whether it's in an office or in a basement. I mean, one of our most successful clients, she lives in Puerto Rico for tax purposes. Her brokerage is in Denver, and then she sells specifically in a second home market. It's by Vail, Colorado. And it's like, she's so far away from these people, but yet her office is growing exponentially because she can drive the leads in because she's still making sales.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. The whole question about working from home or being by yourself is in question. I was listening to Elon Musk the other day, and he said, well, he had 7,800 people. He laid 6,000 off, and nothing really changed at Twitter.
Yeah.
But he feels companies and corporations, they want to create a sort of an environment where people meet. The girl from accounting meets the guy from the carpool or whatever at the coffee bar. That's why they create these big coffee stations. So there's some interaction and understanding what a culture is. He also was sort of interesting that he felt people that don't go to work, that are at home, they're taking advantage of those of us that have to go to work. Like, if I'm a bus driver, I gotta go, but you get to sit at home. So very unique guy, of course, and a very unique take. But the idea was that yes, it's good to get together with people and good to get, particularly in the real estate industry, sort of you're talking about.
Well, most realtors work from their car anyways, right? Like that's the thing, they should be out and about. I mean, I remember working at Remax in a 5,000 square foot office with 5 people in there. Meanwhile, they had 120 agents on the roster because they're all out trying to put deals together.
Sure. In fact, as a manager a long time ago, I used to chase them out. What are you doing here? Go make the door knock. Go get some business, right? You can't.
That's a good idea.
But on the other hand, you come back to the office, you have camaraderie, you can talk, you can see what's going on there, what's the marketplace like, what's the competition is doing, right? So there's good and bad. So, okay, so what about digital marketing then? Is it dead or is it new or what do you do?
I mean, Ozzy, it depends on how you're going to define that digital marketing. I think things like email are still very good. I think that if you're doing regular publications via email to a database that's receptive to them, you're going to improve your business that way for sure. People are going to click through. People are going to read your stuff. People are going to respond. You can go in and look at the data and see, okay, John Smith from this business or this office looked at my stuff. I'm going to call him. Hey, John, thanks for reading my newsletter. How are things going? Yeah, I'd love to talk to you on Tuesday. Book an appointment. Bam. That type of a thing happens with email. When I look at, let's say 2007 or 2008, when Facebook and the marketing started on those type of platforms and Twitter and things like that and Instagram and whatnot, if you're going to be an influencer and make that your job in life and really focus on that, you're probably going to be able to turn a profit on it. If you're just going to play with these social media things as a toy, then they're not going to make you any money. Get on the phone. That's why our company switched away from that stuff. We used to build websites for people for thousands of dollars. Hey, websites are still good to have. We used to do email campaigns for people. Hey, they're still good to have. We used to do social media. That's up for question. But as soon as we started doing actual phone calls for people, talking to people about their businesses and booking appointments, our business exploded. And we started giving people more jobs that we could handle, and we could have more clients that we can handle because it actually gets results. And I think that that's one of the errors with digital marketing is, yes, there are ways to get an ROI off of it, but there are so many ways to pacify yourself with it and say, oh, I did this today, and I posted a picture of my car in front of 7-Eleven or whatever. But it's not really doing anything, but that's just my opinion.
No, I think that's a great opinion. Actually, Mr. Wonderful, the guy that is always on TV, or Kevin O'Leary, Canadian, who ran for Prime Minister at one time, but he wrote a very good book, and just how he got from nothing to being a billionaire, right? And he said he was being asked, how did you raise $128 million when you were Mr. Nobody from nowhere? And he says, I picked up the phone. Now, the way I puts it in the book, it's all big print, and it's I.picked.up.the phone, meaning, you got to talk to people, right? You got to be.
Absolutely.
That doesn't change. On social media, I have probably close to 60,000 people on various 4 Facebooks and LinkedIn. I got 5,000 or 7,000 on Twitter. I have no idea who they are. But I have my own OzBuzz newsletter, which has 26,000 subscribers. I know how they are because I get the email, but there's a huge following. Now, if I was just depending on mailing stuff out to them, I probably would go broke. I got to be in touch with them. I got to engage them, and you do that by phone. But the phone is sort of a thing, right? Particularly in the sales industry. It's so hard to make a phone call. It's so hard to get agents to make the phone calls. Anything but making a phone call. Why are we so scared of phone calls?
I think it's actual work. That's why. It's literally like getting the shovel out and starting to dig a ditch, and you know what I mean, or whatever. It is physical labor, manual labor to get that phone out and start dialing. And I think the other thing is people don't have a list. That's one thing we see across everything that we work with is people come to us, they want us to do their calls, they have no list. And it's like, well, then what are you doing? How are you going to stay in business? Like, it's one of the things I always thought of, like, before I was going to become an entrepreneur, I thought of becoming a realtor. And I said, I don't know where to get a list of people that have houses. I mean, obviously on the internet, you can find businesses and call businesses and try and solicit them and things like that. Beautiful thing about the internet. But to actually try and find people to sell to is very, very difficult. And I think that's why most people, number one, are scared of doing calls is their list sucks right away. They don't have anything prepared. They've called all their relatives or they've called everybody they know and the sphere of influence is done, and they don't have another way to keep adding to that. Because if you're not adding to a list on a regular basis, like at least every month, then the list starts to shrink and then the results start to shrink over time and you've got to keep adding to that list. I think the other thing is people get in their head about doing calls because they're not confident in themselves. It's a mental thing. They're not prepared as a person. They haven't done it enough where they don't care if someone says no or tells them to get lost and pound sand on the phone. They haven't built up that resilience to it because they've been too focused on scrolling on the Instagrams or whatever and just trying to make believe that they're actually doing work, and whereas they should be trying to just do an hour of calls every day to themselves. And to get into that hour of calls, how many people do you have to have on that list to get that hour of calls done? You've got to have at least 50. So to do a week, 5 times 5 is 250 people to call. A month is 1,000. Where are those people coming from? You've got to have that in store. And I think the people that are confident in their list will have a lot more success in becoming confident on the phone.
Well, the other thing is, that we actually know a lot of people, a lot more people than you think you know. And so what we used to do, and we still do in the Real Estate Action Group, is okay, so right now, just write down everybody you know. And so everybody goes around and says, well, how many you have? And they say 20 or 30 or 40 people. And so, well, let's take a look at the list. And this is just about 100 businesses, from the priest to the hockey coach, and you just list them down. Now, as it go down, and do you know a hockey coach, or do you go to church, then write them down. And there wasn't one person in the room that didn't have 150 names within 2 hours, right? So that a lot more
nice.
people. You might as well call them and say, hey, George, how are you doing? I haven't seen you through COVID. You have a perfect reason to just chat with somebody. The other day, I got a call on a boat broker. And it's how you do, and remember the name, so I picked up the phone because I can see who calls and I don't pick up everything. But I did pick that one up. And it's just chatting, how's the market? You realize we're now going in the winter, there's some great deals out there, there's a show coming up. And what he was doing was trying to fish out, did I still own my boat? Did I want to sell the boat? That's good cold calling. And it was really a phone call. He knew me from somewhere. He wasn't really sure, it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But there was some connection. And look, if he does make 100 calls like that, I guarantee you, we used to say 100 calls, 3 leads, 1 listing, right? So that's how you know.
Sure.
You gotta make calls, right? It's a numbers game.
And small businesses today can harness the power of things like LinkedIn. We've had clients come to us with, just for example, a plumbing company. They're trying to expand a plumbing company. Well, hey, we can put a list together of all the property managers in your area just by going into LinkedIn Sales Navigator or hiring somebody overseas or whatever to scrape it. Doesn't matter. Either way, at least that data is available. So people who are starting small business, who already have small businesses, there are ways to prospect now that weren't available before to do the call. So you can get a good list.
So what exactly is it that you do? What does your company do? Let's say I want to do for a book, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we specialize in outbound calling services and booking appointments for, businesses that are in real estate, specifically real estate brokerages. Most of our clients own real estate brokerages or mortgage brokerages. We are doing calls from the financial industry to set appointments for busy people who are in that industry as well. It's an executive calling service. I have a number of people doing calls for me right now as we do this call because I don't have time to do it, right? It's one of the things that we found. People, like we were just talking about, maybe they don't have the time to do the calls. Maybe they're really good at cold calls, but there's just no way they can fit it in their day. That's the thing, and so they would rather have an appointment set for that hour than sit there and try and bang out calls for an hour because they know if the appointment's set, they're likely to close. And that's one of the things that we excel at is, number one, having people that work here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I'm at our office on House Street right now where we train people. I've got client care and sales up here with me. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is hiring Canadians that speak English as a first language that can call places that are expecting that type of, the delivery. If you're going to get on the phone and you've got an accent or you don't have a really good command of the English language, people are going to hang up on you right away. That's one of the things we've found. And we get prospected all the time from companies overseas. Oh, use our call center to supplement, and it's only $6 an hour. And it's like, well, that's not an executive calling service. That is somebody overseas that is just working off a script. When somebody works with us, they get to meet their caller on a Zoom like this, and they get to tell them about their business. And that caller writes a script so that person understands. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to see a return to now in real estate and mortgage and finance and small business is that personalized approach. Everybody wants a personalized approach.
I would agree with that. And I also, maybe I'm from the old school, but I do believe that people need to be, I just writing my OzBuzz newsletter, I'm getting so many people asking, well, I want my people to come back to the office. Am I an outsider? Do I really do the right thing? And I tell them, yes, bring them back to the office. You have a choice. You don't want to come to the office, it's okay. You can go work somewhere else. If it was, look, particularly in marketing, people do what you inspect, not what you expect. People, you hire them, they're on their best behavior, they're looking great. By the way, you're looking much better than I do. I said, from now on, I'm going to have some better lighting.
You look great. Come on.
So the point is, though, that in sales you need to inspect, with respect, but you don't. People don't do what you expect them to do, and it's a tough job to be in sales. But think about it right now. We are down about 32% on a 10-year average in sales. No matter what you measure yourself against to, or with year you measure yourself against to, you're down in sales. There's also down in bodies. Much fewer realtors, much fewer mortgage brokers. In the United States, 60,000 realtors have gone out of business just by the end of this year, according to the National Association of Realtors. Okay, so on another slightly different topic, why are people get ghosted so much these days?
The ghosting thing is new, right? Like, this is something that never used to happen. If somebody couldn't make an appointment or something like that, they'd call you or send a text or send an email. And I don't know if it's like the dating culture of ghosting people. That person that you don't want to go to the movie with, I'm just going to ignore their texts and stuff like that, has bled into business now. But we see it across the board, and like, I get ghosted all the time, and I'll text them or I'll call them and say, hey, we're scheduled for an appointment right now. You talk to our sales team, you confirm email, what happened? Oh, I got busy with something. And it's like, well, you're not going to respect other people's time. And I don't know if it's a post-COVID thing, but I sure didn't notice it as much before COVID, where it just, that's one of the things I said. I said to a millionaire friend of mine when it all hit, I said, there is going to be 80% of people just checking out permanently now. And maybe 50% of them are going to come back at half volume. And then the other 20% of us are actually going to do something right now. And that was as true as the day is long, for sure. And there are still people that have checked out. And it seems like that is created is these people who don't care. It's like, when we fire somebody and they don't care, I'm like, oh, well, great. I'm glad that was good. We fired you. You didn't want to be here. And that's one of the things with this ghosting thing.
You helped them out the door.
Yeah. I love you. Thank you very much. But no, it didn't work out. But that's the thing, as the business owner, getting ghosted is very frustrating, and that's one of the things I think the only way to combat that is to send a million touches. It used to be enough to confirm something once. Now something's got to be confirmed 5 times, and you've got to have a calendar.
Just explain to our audience that are not familiar with the idea of being ghosted. Give us an example on being ghosted.
Yeah, sure. Being ghosted, let's say that you're a realtor and you've set an appointment at the office with some clients that are supposed to come and meet you at 10 o'clock a.m. on Thursday. You're there at 9:45, you poured them coffee, you're sitting at the table, and nobody shows up.
Yeah, it doesn't even tell you.
They don't even tell you. They're not sending you a text. They're not calling you. And then you're calling them and they're not answering their phone. And then you don't hear from them again. Mm-hmm. Maybe you do. And the thing is they'll feel guilty about ghosting you. And so then they'll ignore you, right? And this is something that is new. And I just want to share my pain with people about it, because it happens to me too, right? I had 2 people ghost me yesterday out of 6 appointments. And I was like, well, why? And then the guy texted me back, oh, sorry, the snowstorm. And I was like, okay. You can't show up for a Zoom call because of a snowstorm. Sure. Okay. Right.
But I know that really busy people right now, I know a mortgage broker, an extraordinary mortgage broker, but every 15 minutes he has an appointment. And today, that's what the automation allows you to do. You can set up your calendar, right? That writes itself into the calendar of the person you're there. Now, I'm not actually for that. I just argued with Michael Campbell, who I do a radio show with, and his right-hand man. I said, I don't want you to keep writing appointments into you have to follow it up with an email directly to me or a text that I know that there's an appointment, because I actually like to have fewer appointments every day. Anyways, the point is, it's a busy world, and if you're a busy person, you need to talk to a lot of people, and so 15 minutes is sort of the limit. The interesting thing is that I tried this for a while. Since I knew I was only going to have a 15-minute call, I was extremely focused on getting to the point, rather than telling a whole lot of stories and how's your mother and your aunt and do you still have the giraffe in the basement. Well, yeah, all the kind of big thing is that it does focus you. On the other hand, by the end of the day, you're exhausted, right? And then if somebody doesn't show, you really don't appreciate it.
It's true, and I think that's just I don't know if that's and it's not like a generational thing. You get all those millennials, they just ghost everybody. It's across the board, and I don't know if it's because of the separation of using digital devices or something like that, where you used to have to meet people in person, and now when it's just a virtual meeting or something like that, they don't take it seriously. But people get ghosted in-person meetings all the time too. And I'll tell you, I've gotten ghosted on trying to hire people just for my company, and they won't show up at the office. And then you're texting them and calling them. It's like you did an initial Zoom meeting, you looked at the employee contract, and then you ghosted the in-person meeting. So you just didn't care, And those are the type of people who aren't going to become wealthy and successful in the new marketplace, the new world, where there is an abundance of money to be earned and people that want to spend. And that's one of the things that I see every day is there's people who want to spend. They're super excited about life and business, and they're successful. And hey, I'm sorry if that creates a huge division in whatever you want to call it, classes or whatever it is. I probably shouldn't say classes, but the thing is there is so much opportunity out there. And if the people that that want opportunities aren't going to take advantage of the ones that are presented to them, that's their bad.
Well, the other thing is, if that happened to me right up front, it's a better it's right up front. He doesn't show to his own opinion, well, do I really want that person to work for my company? Or will I talk good about them? No. Okay, well,
exactly.
We're close to the end. Tell me your wisdom of Rob. Will there be more real estate deals in 2024 than in 23 or 22?
I think so. I think last year, I mean, I hope so, but I think last year was kind of rock bottom for the real estate industry. I think that, we got really lucky with all the cheap money in 21 and all the deals that happened in 20 and 2021. And then 2022, we started to see it slow down by half the year. The mortgage rates were way up, and then all of a sudden the mortgage industry is totally suffering, and then you look at 6.1 million deals done in 2021, and then in the United States, and then in 2022, there wasn't even 5 million. And then last year, 2023, there was maybe 4.5 million deals, I mean, people look at that, well, that's still a big number. There's still lots of deals going on. But when you had this inflated amount because of the circumstances that happened in 2020 and 2021, there were a lot of people who got into the industry and got lucky right away. Things were just flying off the shelf. And then all of a sudden there was no product, the mortgage rates are up, and all these people who didn't know how to put deals together had trouble. So I think what's going to happen this year is that we've got the people who put deals together. They're going to do a little better this year, and I think we're coming toward the end of that 5-year cycle where it's going to rebound and start heading the other way again. But again, that's just my opinion. I talk to people across the country every day, and in both Canada and the United States, primarily the United States, and they're optimistic. And they're optimistic about short sales and REO as well, because there are people who are going to have to refinance. If you've got a mortgage payment that's gone from $1,000 to $3,500 and your income hasn't, changed to cover that, you're going to have to sell and buy something else. And that will create other transactions this year, probably more so in Canada than the United States, but it will affect both.
Well, what people don't realize is, you take Vancouver, and we had single-family home sales in December with 377. Okay. Well, it was 372 in December 2022. So more sales. We're up 2%. But a year earlier, 2021, as you pointed out, the sales were 1,200 versus the 370 that we had that were better than in 2022. So the point was that, yes, we've seen a marked decline in actual sales volume. But we also have seen, as we talked about it earlier, fewer realtors or fewer mortgage brokers. And so the actual number of deals probably are about the same, but your attitudes, you're being positive about the world and saying, okay, this market is down 35%. Well, my deals have to go into the 65% that sell, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on. And if we have that kind of an attitude, we will have a good year. Now, it looks like as early as our Benjamin Tall says it's going to be, interest rates going to come down maybe by March. Mr. Tiff Mackling says it's going to be June, and Doug Porter from the Bank of Montreal says it's April. And then you look at Jamie Dimon from the United States, it's going to go to 7%. I mean, you can go blind if you look at all the, spend an afternoon on YouTube and type in interest rates where they're going to go. The leading brains in the world look at the same circumstances and don't know. What I do know is that they're not going to go higher, in my view, and we may go down, but it will be maybe 1/4 or 0.5%. And then when we realize in the last 50 years in Canada, the 5-year term never went under 5% other than 5 years. So for 45 years out of 50, we always were over 5%. And so 2016, 17, 18, 19, where we actually were under 5%. And somebody came into the world then, the new generation Xers or millennials or whatever, they think this is going to go back there. No, it won't, because 5% is it. And so we just did a video yesterday with Ralph Case, my partner, and we said, there's such a thing now, the whisper mortgage. If you just didn't have your TV repossessed and you have good credit rating, right? The bank will whisper to you, and you can get under 5% right now. 4.99, but it's under 5%. Well, we're right where we were. I mean, I used to do most of my real estate, big deals. We're at 10% and 11%. You know, that was normal. So yes, I think we're going to have a better year, and we certainly hope so. And you're going to be much more busy, as people will not look just for new brokers, but good brokers that care for their customers and the business out there.
It's true. And one of the other things, I mean, when you look at buying a home, these are usually people with jobs, you know, and they want to take that salary that they worked so hard to get to and to put it into something where it's a secure investment, it's a crypto or something or whatever, something they know is tangible they're going to live in for the rest of their lives. I think if you can't do that, try and build a business. Because if you spend your life trying to build a business instead of just sticking money into a home that you're never going to sell, that's how you become rich. Right? Like, you become rich by investing in a business and investing yourself. Like, sure, it's a great idea to think about the interest rates and, okay, I can get a house for this much and I'll be able to afford it on this salary if they don't fire me and I don't get laid off or something else doesn't happen. But if you build a business with a client list, nobody can take that away from you. And then you can sell it in 10 years and pay cash for whatever house you want. You know, and the mortgage rates become inconsequential. It's like worrying about the price of gas. If you can elevate yourself to a certain level as a business person, and it's never been easier to start a business. We talked about lists, how easy it is to get lists now to sell things and to start an online store or a shop or find a niche. We talked about my business. The reason why it's become successful is because I'm inside a niche that is like, I own it now, you know, like there's not a lot of people that can compete with me for what I do. It is because I've spent 10 years, more than 10 years, mastering that niche. So I think instead of just trying to find something where everybody's selling the same thing and you're white noise, try and find a business where you are a super niche and become successful at that. And then the interest rates and the price of anything just doesn't even matter anymore.
And I think that is so true. When you look around the world, say to YouTube, thousands of young guys or old guys all of a sudden find something that becomes their mission, and all of a sudden they find their joy. You know, the whole idea of if you find something you really like to do, you never work another day in your life, and there is that. But the thing is, we have to be conscious of opportunity. We live in the best places in the whole world. If you're in Canada or the United States, the whole world wants to come here, and we're here.
For sure.
And we're complaining, right? So let's make the best of it. Certainly, if anybody wants to hire somebody that will help them get more salespeople or more staff and in a professional, organized way, Rob Sutherland is your guy to do. We're going to have, for those of you that are watching it, just go down below. We have the contact information there. If you hear it on the podcast, you know, just go to OzBuzz.ca where we have Rob featured. Rob, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on today, Ozzy. Super good to see you again.
Take care. All the best.